The storm had just begun rolling over the small town of Ridgewater when Mia stumbled into the parking lot behind Rusted Grounds Cafe, trembling so violently that she could barely hold her breath steady. Rainwater streaked her face, mixing with tears she didn't even remember letting fall. Behind her, a voice she had grown to fear more than thunder cracked through the air, calling her name in that terrifying, familiar way. Her lungs seized. Her legs felt like they would buckle. In that instant, with panic clawing at every piece of her being, she did something she never thought she would do. She ran toward the row of motorcycles lined under the flickering street lamp and threw herself between the legs of a man she had never met, hiding as if her life depended on it. And maybe it did. Before we continue, if you believe in kindness, humanity, and second chances, please take a moment to like this video, comment, share it with someone who might need it, and subscribe to channel name. Your support helps bring more stories that remind the world that goodness still exists. Mia didn't know whose boot she clung to or whose denim she pressed her shaking forehead against. All she knew was that they felt steady, grounded, like they belonged to someone who wouldn't move until she was safe. The man didn't speak, he didn't even flinch. He simply looked down at her, his face shadowed beneath the brim of a rain-soaked cap, and something in his expression softened. She could feel the weight of the world shift in that moment. She wasn't invisible anymore. Someone had seen her fear and didn't turn away. His name, she would soon learn, was Caleb, a quiet, broad-shouldered biker known in the town as a man who kept to himself. But what most people didn't know was that Caleb had once loved someone who didn't make it out of her own toxic relationship. He had carried that regret for years, like chains wrapped around his ribs. And now a trembling stranger was clinging to him, begging silently for help without speaking a word. Something inside him snapped, something fierce, protective, and deeply unresolved. Mia's ex, Noah, stormed into the lot moments later, shouting her name, soaking himself in anger and rain. His breath came out in furious clouds. His eyes scanned wildly. Mia held her breath, burying her face deeper between Caleb's legs, gripping his jeans as if bracing for impact. Caleb didn't move an inch. Instead, he crossed his arms slowly, deliberately, and planted his boots even wider, like he was creating a wall of steel and bone around her. Noah's voice echoed against the metal of the bikes, but the biker didn't blink. He was calm, dangerously calm. Something about his silence made the furious man take an involuntary step back. Noah eventually left, but not without promising he'd be back for her. His threat floated through the cold air like poison. When he disappeared, Mia couldn't breathe at first. Her body sagged as though the fear itself was draining out. Caleb knelt beside her, his movements careful, slow, gentle, like handling something fragile that had already been dropped one too many times. He didn't ask questions, didn't force her to speak. He simply offered his jacket, draped it around her shoulders, and walked her into the warm, humming cafe where a few of his biker brothers watched with quiet concern. The warmth of the cafe lights felt unreal to Mia, like stepping through a doorway into a world she didn't deserve. Her story came out in trembling fragments. A relationship that had begun with flowers and promises but had turned into isolation, manipulation, and finally violence. She had tried to leave, tried to rebuild her life, but Noah always found a way back. Tonight had been the breaking point. He had cornered her near her apartment, grabbed her arm hard enough to bruise, and told her she belonged to him. She had run without thinking. She had no plan, no hope. Just instinct. Caleb listened. His jaw clenched more tightly with every detail. But his voice remained steady as he promised her something she had never heard from anyone before: "You're safe now. You're not alone." The following days became a blur of biker boots, laughter she hadn't heard in months, and a strange new feeling she didn't quite recognize: belonging. The Rusted Grounds riders weren't the stereotype she'd been taught to fear. They were mechanics, fathers, weekend adventurers, men and women who knew pain, loss, and rebuilding. They welcomed her like a little sister dropped unexpectedly on their doorstep. And through them, Mia learned to breathe again. But Noah wasn't done. Toxic people rarely walk away quietly. One evening, just as the sun dipped behind the horizon, painting the town in shades of amber and dusk, Noah returned, this time with a temper so loud it rattled windows. He marched toward the cafe, shouting Mia's name, demanding she come out. Fear and old patterns gripped her heart, but Caleb stood between her and the door before she could even think of running. His presence was steady, unmoving. He wasn't just standing up to Noah, he was standing up to every moment of her life when she had been told she didn't matter. Noah lunged at Caleb, expecting him to back off. But the biker didn't move. He didn't raise a fist. He simply stared into Noah's rage with a kind of strength that rattled him to the core. The other bikers slowly stepped outside, forming a silent wall behind Caleb. 20 riders with their boots planted firmly on the ground, their arms crossed, their stares unblinking. It wasn't violence. It wasn't intimidation. It was something far more powerful: unity. The sight shook the entire town. People stopped walking. Cars slowed to watch. Even Noah, fueled by anger, felt his voice crack as he realized the truth: she wasn't alone anymore. He couldn't isolate her. Couldn't control her. Couldn't scare her into submission. Caleb stepped forward, lowering his voice so only Noah could hear. Whatever he said was quiet, firm, final. Noah's shoulders sagged. His bravado crumbled. His hands trembled. And for the first time, he backed away, not because he wanted to, but because he knew he had already lost. He left the town that night, and this time, he didn't look back. In the weeks that followed, Mia blossomed in ways she never thought possible. Her fear didn't vanish overnight, but she learned to reclaim the pieces of herself that had been chipped away. She found work again, she laughed with the riders, and slowly, very slowly, she found her strength returning. Caleb remained quietly by her side, never pushing, just being present. Their bond grew not from romance but from shared scars and the healing that followed. And the town? People still talk about the night the riders stood guard, not with fists, but with hearts big enough to shelter someone who had forgotten what kindness looked like. If this story touched your heart, if it reminded you of courage, healing, or the power of people standing together, please remember to like, comment, share, and subscribe to channel name. Your support helps keep these powerful stories alive. Special request: before this video ends, comment below: kindness can save a life.